Hi. I suppose I'm supposed to carry this around or something? Is that the idea? What do I do with this? Someone gave me this. I don't know. Alright. I have slides, right? Do I have slides, JD? Alright. Oh, I see, right. Yeah. Obviously, we've prepared really diligently for this. Woo! Alright, so yeah, how many people have you ever bought a miner or wanted to get into mining and thought, let's figure out how much money I'm gonna make, because that's the point, right? And you stick it into a calculator online, and you're like, I'll have, 40 terahash. That should get me this much money. Like, how many people here actually own a miner? Right, and did you go to an online profit calculator and go, let's see how much money I'll make with 40 terahash? Did you do that? So, hands up if you did that. All right, so did you, where do you think that number comes from? Did anyone sort of go, how is this being calculated? Did anyone go that far? Right, that's sort of the point, right? Because where does that number come from? Because typically, I don't think most people actually do that level of diligence, right? Here's what you should do, and did anyone, put your hand up if you did this. I'm guessing no one did it. You look at the network difficulty, you look at what your hash rate is, you look at how often you could find blocks, you do the maths, and you figure out how much you should actually be getting paid based on the network difficulty. Did anyone do that? All right, more than I expected. But then what happens is you point to a pool and you get nothing like that. Did the few people who did the calculation realize that none of the pools actually pay you that? Did anyone discover that? All right. Well, there are a few guys here that did, but they're also mining on Ocean, which is what I'm going to talk to you about. So basically the point of that little introductory spiel was, out of the sort of 70 people here, around 3 of them did the calculation themselves, and no one else did, and those 3 people are mining on the pool I'm about to tell you about. The point is, what comes out of the blockchain is not going to be reflective of what you're ultimately getting paid if you're mining on an FPPS pool. Now, what's FPPS? It's the dominant payout model. That's what pretty much every single pool out there uses now. And that's basically where you go by default as a miner. FPPS stands for full pay per share, which sounds very good if you sort of naively look at the words. I want to be paid fully for all of my shares. I don't want to be paid partially. So, sounds good. But really what FPPS is, it's an insurance product, and it's a very expensive insurance product. And basically the nature of the blockchain, Bitcoin's blockchain, is that you don't know when the next block is going to come. It's always 10 minutes from now, but only when you look back and you look on average will you see that roughly every 10 minutes a block gets found. It doesn't tell you anything about each specific block. And you also have other elements of randomness beyond that, which is how many transaction fees are there inside each block that gets found, and no one knows that. So originally Bitcoin was very predictable. It was 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes with 0 transaction fee revenue, essentially. So as a miner, back in the years between 2009 and 2012, before the first halving, you could pretty much predict from your hash rate versus what the network difficulty was, how much you could expect to pull out the chain. And if you used a pool, you could figure out pretty easily if the pool was robbing you or not. But then the first halving happened, and then Bitcoin dropped to 25 Bitcoins every 10 minutes with a sprinkling of transaction fees. Then the next halving happened in 2016, and that dropped to 12.5. Then the next halving happened in 2020, and that dropped to 6.25, and now we're down to 3.125. And transaction fees are becoming a more and more significant part of what miners bring in, and they are random. So not only is every block not 10 minutes, but every block contains varying amounts of Bitcoins. So what that ultimately results in is, if you're using a pool, which basically everyone is, you have no idea of figuring out what the pool is bringing in versus what you're getting paid. And the payout model that the pools use, to make matters worse, as I said, it's an insurance product. They're basically saying, don't worry about the randomness of Bitcoin and the blocks we find. We will pay you consistently no matter what. Now, let's put that in another context. If there's any other industry on the planet where someone, take something random like the weather, And if someone was guaranteed, like supposing all drinking water came from rainfall, right, and that was the only source of it, and someone promised to make sure you had water no matter what, even if there was a drought, for 6 months, it was the rainy season and we didn't get a single drop of rain, but we'll guarantee you water no matter what. Whoever it is that would sell that product to you is going to charge a lot because they're on the hook for giving you water even if none comes out of the sky. That's what mining pools are doing. They're telling all of you guys on FPPS pools, we're going to give you Bitcoins even if we don't find any blocks. And this is not fiat. You cannot create Bitcoins out of thin air. You actually need to mine them. And if you don't mine them, they don't exist. So any product out there that says we will pay you an unfakeable, finite supply, hard money that we have not discovered, that we must source from somewhere, that no one is going to part with, trivially. Anyone that offers you a product like that is naturally going to charge a lot for it. And this has been costing miners a lot of money. So Ocean launched back in November 2023. And our conjecture when we launched, because we don't use the FPPS payout model, our miners don't get paid unless the pool finds a block, it makes life more difficult for miners, but it means ultimately they make more money, and I'll explain why. Variance is basically a source of revenue in Bitcoin that a tiny group of actors have taken for themselves because they've said to miners en masse, there are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people mining Bitcoin in the world, but there's only really around 3 or 4 pools. And those 3 or 4 pools have said, we will deal with Bitcoin. Don't worry about it. We will deal with the variance. We will deal with the discrepancies between high fee and low fee environments. We will eat all of that and just pay you consistently no matter what. And that makes them a middleman between the Bitcoin blockchain and the miner. And they can make an absolute fortune being in that role because miners have said, we're not out here with our buckets collecting rainwater doing what we can to maximize the amount of water we can get. We're using a middleman that makes our life a lot easier but charges us a fortune for it. So Ocean comes along and Ocean says, well, look at it this way. Volatility is your friend. If you want to do well in Bitcoin, or if you want to make a lot of money generally, and you're aware of Bitcoin, you can deal with the fact that if I buy this super volatile asset, I can have insane gains, and I can have miserable years where it drops 85%. That's Bitcoin, right? It's volatile, it's alive. It's the same with mining. If you can mine and you can wrestle directly with the chain and deal with the variance, you can make a lot of money. If you just decide to walk away from all that and turn it into nice, predictable, steady income, it's exactly the same loss as people that can't handle Bitcoin's volatility price-wise and would rather invest in, the S&P 500, right? It's steady, it's boring, it's predictable, and it's never going to have crazy gains. Mining is basically the same. If you can deal with the massive mess that is, the blockchain, waiting around 2 hours for a block, then you find 5 of them in 10 minutes. If you can handle that as a miner, then you get that additional source of revenue. So let's get down to the numbers. When Ocean first launched in November 2023, our conjecture was the fact that we don't absorb variance and we don't charge miners for doing that, the fact that we leave that up to them, should mean they make more money. And we did not know how right we were. So Barefoot Mining was, to their credit, they were the first guys that agreed to mine on Ocean. Bob Burnett, legendary Bitcoiner, he calls himself Boomer BTC. He was the ex-CTO of Gateway Computers, just a legend in the information space. He mined with us from the beginning. He found our first 2 blocks, and he ran a study where he had 10 miners pointed at Ocean, 10 identical miners pointed at 3 other pools. So he had a total of 40 miners, 10 on Ocean, 10 on another pool, 10 on another pool. He asks that I don't mention the names of the other pools, but they are FPPS pools and they are very well known. And he controlled for as much variability as he could. So they were all in the same container, they all had the same network, they all had the same electricity, same humidity, all of these factors, right? And after his first year, he earned 30% more on Ocean than the next best pool, and 35% more on Ocean than the worst pool that he compared with. Now this was insane, and I'm not trying to make an overinflated claim here. The nature of Ocean's payout model, which is called tides, which I'm already over time, but I'll try and explain it anyway. The nature of Ocean's payout model meant in our first year, miners would earn a bit more than could reasonably be expected to persist, but not that much more. So when Ocean outperformed the best FPPS pool that was compared to by 30%, we should have yelled a lot louder than we did, but you know, the point was our conjecture was correct. We just didn't know how correct it would be. And the whole point was Ocean lets miners tap into that other source of revenue, which is volatility. And if you're mining on Foundry, Antpool, F2Pool, Via, or any of the proxy pools for Antpool, which are, you know, Brains and all those, Luxor and all those sub-pools of Antpool, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Come and talk to us at the Ocean booth if you want to know more about why that is. Thank you.
Do you know what your booth number is?
I don't know. It's in the middle there.
It's in the middle, yeah. Check out his Ocean booth.
What is?
This is definitely the next generation.
351.
351. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.